Dear learners, I again welcome you all. Today we will discuss mainly the instrumentation part of transmission electron microscope. So these are the learning outcomes. After attending this video lecture, you will be able to grip the prerequisite of the sample preparation and you will be able to explain the working of each and every part of transmission electron microscope in detail. So we will start with the prerequisite, then the sample preparation and instrumentation. So this is the prerequisite of the specimen, means what are the requirement of specimen to introduced into the transmission electron microscope. So these are the three requirements. First is whatever sample we have, it should be resistant in a vacuum. Obviously, it should be resistant in a vacuum. Otherwise, our sample will be disturbed by the pressure. So, whatever sample we will select, it should be resistant in the vacuum. Then, it should be penetrable for electrons. Obviously, these are the type of electron microscope. So, whatever sample we will select, it should be penetrable for electrons and it providing the contrast. This we will see in much detail, means it will produce a bright image. Whatever sample we have, it should able to produce a bright image. But for that we require the lens, we require the TEM grid. It will done by the other part. Now we will see the sample preparation. As I said in my previous lecture, the sample preparation is a very hard in this transmission electron microscope. So here see there are two pathways to prepare a sample. First is the classical preparation pathway and second is the Cairo preparation pathway. Here we require a TEM grid. That's why we require a very thin sample. So your sample preparation is a very important. This transmission electron microscope is generally used in a biologicals. That's why we will discuss the sample preparation for cells and tissues. So we will see each and every step in detail. So first step, if we will see the classical preparation pathway, it is done at a room temperature. First step is a fixation. Fixation means chemical fixation. In this first step, we will fix our sample by applying the chemical, and this process is done. We will stabilize our sample by applying chemicals, and this process is done at room temperature. After we fix our sample, there is a process again and it is known as dehydration. So this dehydration is done by applying ethanol. We have to apply ethanol consequently. And after that, there is another step is embedding. So once we apply the ethanol, once our sample will be dehydrated, again we have to exchange the ethanol with a polymer, and you can say monomer first. So this monomer will dissolve the ethanol or whatever sample we applied. For example, we can use ethanol as well as acetone. So this monomer will solubilize the ethanol or acetone, and that monomer will polymerized by heat, or you can say by applying UV, and it will produce a hard plastic, and that containing the embedded specimen. So now our specimen is embedded. After that, there is a step of a thin sectioning. Means after embedding, we have to produce a thin sections of our sample, and after that we have to stain our sample by using uranyl acetate or by using the lead citrate. This is the last step. After that we can apply our sample into this for imaging. Now see, we will see the second process is known as cryopreparation, or you can say cryofixation. Means here we are stabilizing, here we are fixing our sample by chemical fixation, but here there is a cryofixation. Why there is a need of this process? Because in this process there will be a lot of artifacts. So to reduce that artifacts, we go through this process, we can use this process, and here we have to freeze our sample. Cryofixation means we have to freeze our sample. Once the sample or once the specimen is frozen, then it will be dehydrated and fixed with the chemical fixative. But this process is not done at a room temperature. It will produce at a very low temperature, you can say below -90 degrees centigrade temperature. And then we will follow the same step. So this is how we can produce a sample. We can produce a cells and tissue for the time. Now we will see the components. So you can say the instrumentation part. So as like same here. So as like scanning electron microscope, here also there are the components like electron gun is the same. So it will emit the electron, it's act as an emission source. Then electromagnetic lenses, then again the vacuum system and fluorescence screen, or you can say CCD, means a charge coupled device. These are the major components of a transmission electron microscope. We will see each and every component in detail. So first of all, this is the instrumentation part. See, I have taken two pictures over here. First, there will be electron gun. So it will emit the electron. It acts as an emission source. After that, there is a electromagnetic lens. Means, see, here there are three type of lenses. You can see this schematic diagram. Here there are three type of lenses. You can see your electromagnetic lens, again electromagnetic lens. You can divide these three electromagnetic lens into the condenser lens. Second electromagnetic lens means here there is an intermediate lens, and projector lens. Means there are three type of electromagnetic lenses present over here. The condenser lens, the intermediate lenses, so you can say objective lenses, and the projector lenses. So here, now we will move toward the condenser lens. So what is the role of condenser lens? Here, the condenser system which form the probe, it will produce an electron probe. After that, this electron will come over here to the sample grid, or you can say the TEM grid, and here there is a sample. You can see this is a TEM grid. Now after that, there will be a transmission of electron, and it will come over here at the second electromagnetic lens. Means you can say the intermediate lenses. There are also first, second, intermediate lenses. So what it will do, it will again transmit the electron, and it will magnify the first and large diffraction. It will magnify the first and large diffraction. After that, it will comes to this projector lens, and it will produce a projection of the image, and we can view the sample over here at the CCD camera. Here there is a phosphorescence screen, so it will produce a projection at the screen, and we can see our image at the CCD. This is the simple way how we can observe our image on a transmission electron microscope. Now we will see each and every part in detail. So first there is a sample holder. Now see, here the specimen must be very thin. So electron can penetrate the specimen and it can form the image. Now see, this is the structure of a sample holder. Now here you can see This is a tip, the holder tip, and this is the over zoom image of this sample tip, and this picture is the over zoom image of this grid. This is a grid and it's known as a TAM grid. This yellow color is shows the sample, and this is a TAM grid. So now this is a clear picture we have, how it looks, how it is arranged. So after we apply the sample on the TAM grid, what we have to do? We have to introduce this tip over here. This is the goniometer, this part. We have to introduce our specimen holder over here, and there will be a vacuum lock. It's locked by vacuum. So this is how it's arranged, how it look. Now we will move towards the electromagnetic lenses. So first of all, the electromagnetic lenses consist of a huge bundle of the windings of the copper wire, a soft iron cast, and a pole piece. It will clear by this picture. This is the structure of electromagnetic lens. Here it have a pole pieces. So these are the pole pieces. This is the copper winding, and here you can see this is the soft iron. Now see how it will work, how electromagnetic lens will work. So first you can see there is a name, electromagnetic lens, means obviously there will be electron. Then magnetic means that should be a magnetic field. So how it produced? So magnetic field is introduced by the current in the winding. Means what happened? Here there is a winding, a copper winding. So after applying this current from the electrons, it will produce a magnetic field over here. Directly it will come over here to the pole pieces. Then the accelerated electrons entering the magnetic field, and it deviate following the law of charge passing a magnetic field. So it will pass the magnetic field, and lastly it come over here to the pole pieces. After that we will get a force. Whatever resultant force will always perpendicular to the plane defined by direction of the magnetic field and direction of the electrons. Means we will get over here whatever electromagnetic field is generated, it will be perpendicular. We will see in detail by this image. And lastly we will get the electrons take a circular path through the lens system. So what is this image indicate? We have seen two steps. After that what happened? Here see, the magnetic field is strongest in the area of pole piece. As I said, over here the pole pieces, the magnetic field is very strong. So the focal length of lens is charged by the current through the winding. After that, water cooling is there. Water cooling is used, or you can say, to maintain the stability during the operation. Now see, after that what happened? This is a schematic. This is nothing but a schematic diagram of this only electromagnetic lens. So electrons passing the magnetic field are deviated perpendicular. See here, you can see the B is a magnetic field. This is the direction of magnetic field, and electrons, this is the velocity of electrons. V means a speed, vector of electron, and it is defined by magnetic field B and velocity vector V. Means what? Whatever force is generated, it will be perpendicular to this two direction of the magnetic field as well as the electrons, and we will get the image as the circular path through the lens system. Now see, this arrow this arrow indicate the rotation of the image. So here we will get, see, first it will come over here, then it will go like this. So this indicate the rotation of the image. Now it is clear. So the structure of lens is same, but the first lens system in electron microscope, that is act as a condenser lens as we have seen, and which will determine the overall brightness. First lens will determine the overall brightness of the specimen. After that, electron transmit the specimen and object lens. It will produce a primary image. Then we will get a final magnification, and it is determined by the projective lens. And we will capture that image on a CCD camera, right? After that, see, this is a vacuum system. Electron microscope or a high vacuum system. There are again three parts. You can see this is a cathode, sample holder and viewing screen. Here there is a three part. First is the IGP, then TMP, or you can say ODP and RP. Means ion getter pump, turbomolecular pump, or a diffusion pump, or a rotary pump. Here we can see the difference in a pressure. Now in the first step, at this pressure we can reduce or we can prevent the oxidation or burning of the heated filament. And again at this, our specimen will work at this pressure at 10 raised to minus 5 to 10 raised to minus 7. In between this megabar, our specimen will work all the time. And here there is a rotary pump, means to reduce the atmospheric gas. At this pressure we will reduce our interaction of the sample with the atmospheric gas molecules. So this at 3 stage our vacuum system is arranged. Now we will move towards, see, the next step is contrast formation and imaging. Means how we will get the contrast formation, contrast image, or you can say the bright image. So here there is a impregnation of a thin section with the heavy metal. We will use the heavy metal like uranium and lead. What it will do? So what is contrast formation? It is achieved by trapping the numerous diffracted electrons using the objective aperture located in the focal plane of the objective lens. Means what? Spots of the sample containing, how we will get the image? So spots of the sample containing more heavy metals will lead to a higher number of diffracted or scattered electrons, so which will hit the objective aperture. Means what happened? This kind of electron which have a heavy metal, which do not reach the imaging, means do not reach at the CCD camera, and will cause a electron dense area, means it will produce a dark area. So this is how we will contrast formation, or how we produce imaging or contrast will be formed. Means a heavy metal, means whatever sample we have with a higher number of diffracted or scattered electron will produce a dark image. You can see it is clear by this picture. This is a heavy metal at ions. So this is our specimen. These are the electrons. This is a phospholipids and ribosomes. Here at objective aperture it will be captured. After that we will get the image, like see, this is a signal intensity and specimen profile. Means how it is darkened and how it is bright. It will clear by this image. Now this is the last step. How image is captured on CCD. Means how can we get the image on CCD? So you can see this structure. This is our structure of CCD. This is the outside the microscope, the structure, and this you can say this part is the inside the microscope. This part will inside the microscope. We have to introduce this part in a microscope. Now if we see the overzoom image of this part, this is our CCD chip, you can say. So main part of this is the CCD chip. Then fiber optics are there and scintillator is there. So this is our interest, CCD chip. See, CCD has to be protected from electron bombardment. Means what? We can't bombard electrons directly over here because it will damage the chip. That's why what we have to do, whatever electrons will be there, it need to be converted into the photons. And for that we need a scintillator. That's why there is a scintillator. It will convert the electrons into photons. And we can capture that photons on this CCD chip. So above that it have a small fiber optics, and this element, it will guide the photons from the scintillator to the pixel of the CCD. So nowadays direct electron CCD are also available, so no need of scintillator, but it is very expensive, so we can use this also. So now it is clear how there is an instrumentation part, how we will get the image and how we will capture the image by CCD. Thank you for attending this lecture. If you have any doubt, you can email me on this email ID. If you have any doubt, you can contact me or you can WhatsApp me on this number.